Hello everybody and welcome back to another Atris Studios tutorial. Now today is the next part of our equipment tutorial for our inventory system. So how this works is essentially we have this character over here, and if I press tab, go into our inventory panel, as you can see we have of course a leather helmet, a body type A, and we have some example boots on, right? So if we remove our helmet, we want to be able to switch it to a default skin. If we remove our body type or our armor, then we'll be able to switch that out. And if we remove our boots, we'll be able to do the same thing there and be able to just drop those back on there without having a single problem. So without further ado, let's get started. Now today's tutorial is going to be very simple. So let's just talk about the character setup in the first place, right? So what you want to make sure that you have is of course a character with skinned mesh renderers attached to it. Normally how you achieve this goal is simply by exporting your product as multiple game objects, and they should automatically be skinned mesh renderers, okay? So just make sure that those are there. All right. Another thing with skin mesh renders is that they do need to be rigged to your skeleton, so just keep that in mind as well. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to hop immediately over into our scripts. Now, the first script we're going to talk about is, of course, our equipment script. This is a very simple adjustment to the script. We're just going to be adding in a public mesh called model. This allows us to be able to attach that mesh to the skin mesh renderer. Okay. The next thing that you need to do is go over to your character folder or character script, which we created inside of the last tutorial, if I'm correct. In fact, we created both of these in the last tutorial. So if you haven't checked that out, make sure to go back to that and check it out and go all the way through it, so then you have everything that we have here. Now, in the last tutorial, our character only had this script right here. And of course, we had this update equipment data. That's of course new down there. So just follow along here and you'll be right as rain. So at the top here, we of course added a header called equipable meshes. This of course is our skin mesh renderers, which I just discussed a couple seconds ago. Of course, we have one for our head, we have one for our body, we have one for our pants, and we have one for our feet, right? So each one of these things, just like I said before, when setting this up, you need one for each one of these objects, okay? So just keep that in mind. So yeah. The next thing we need to do is create some form of default skin for our character. Now you can set this up using your game manager. You can set this up, well, practically anywhere, right? But we were going to be setting this up inside the individual character just in case, say for instance, we have a skeleton that has a default body and we want to be able to change that out to a bigger body, right? Or we have a goblin that has a specific type of head and we want to switch it out to a different head, you know, something like that, okay? So yeah, we created a default head, default body, default pants, and default feet. And as I said before, same thing with this, just make sure that you go with the same length as that. All right, so on void start, we want to be able to equip or de-equip items based on what we have inside of our inventory. So we created this for loop, which takes into account our data.equipment equipment class, which if you recall inside the last tutorial, we created an array which held our equipment, right? So this is basically just getting the length of that array. From there, we're going to call the update equipment data function, which is then going to be inputted with a data.equipment. We're going to get the equipment at this I location, and we're going to get the index at the exact same location as well. All right, inside of the update equipment data, like I said, we did this inside the previous tutorial, just setting up this data.equipment set value function here, but we did add two new conditions here. So the first condition we need to ask is our value actually valid? Does it have something inside there? So I asked this if statement, data.equipment.getValue index, if it's equal to null. Right, so if it's equal to null, well, we want to call this new function here called remove equip item, and we're going to plug in this value of index, and we'll get to that in a second. Then we're going to return from this function. So we're not going to run this equip item function right here. So we're just going to run this right here. It's going to stop, and we're not going to have to worry about anything. If this is not true, though, we're going to make sure that we equip an item, and we're going to just plug in our equipment value, like so. All right, so we're going to discuss the equip item function first. So it's going to require an equipment, and we're going to call that equipment equipment. Then we're going to run a switch statement, which is going to basically get the type of that equipment. And here we're just going to put in our cases. So our equipment types, so our head, our body, our pants, and our feet. And all we're doing here is we're grabbing the mesh, which of course, if you recall up here, our skin mesh renderer, and we're going to get the mesh of it. So it's going to be called shared mesh. And we're going to make that equal to this equipment dot model, so that variable we created at the beginning of this tutorial. And we're going to just run through every single one of those just like so. All right, so that's all you have to do there to be able to get it to be equipped. And lastly, we of course have the remove equip item. It's just going to need a integer called index, and inside here we're just going to run a switch case on that index. Now keep in mind that this length of the remove items needs to match the amount of equipment types that you have. So like before, you got your head, body, pants, feet. If you have like gauntlets or anything like that, make sure that you add that inside here as well. That way you have it able to be assigned. Okay, so this is just a heads up, just in case. I don't really know what sort of games you guys are building here, but this is just that. Okay. All right, so yeah, you're basically going to do the exact same thing as we did with the equipment item or equipping items. But what we're going to do here is we're basically going to change it back to our default settings. So our default head, our default body, our default pants, and our default feet. So this will work in any situation really. So it'll equip or de-equip at the beginning of the game and whenever you switch the items as well. All right, so that's all you have to do with the code. Very, very simple. So to set this up, just make sure that you go over to your character. Now, my character is the player ref. Now, this model is not underneath my character ref or player ref character, right? But that's okay. You don't have to have it connected. Just make sure that you have your character script on your model or whatever model that you want this to be attached to. For your head, make sure to find the head of your character. So as you can see, I have all these extra objects that I disabled. That's because I wanted to be able to import the skin meshes. So that's just what I did there. But go ahead and just drag in, say for instance, your thug head, just drop it right on there. On the body, you're going to drag in the body. And of course, same thing with the pants and the boots. And then for our defaults, what we want to do is if you have imported these models or these, if you haven't imported these models, these meshes are going to automatically be there. So if I actually enable this right here, as you can see, the mesh is actually still on this object, right? So the mesh now exists inside of Unity as well. So you can have as many of these meshes, or you can just create your own mesh. It's up to you. I just like keeping them together here. So yeah, just do that right there to where, say for instance, grab our player ref again, select this little tab down here, and then just select whatever you want for your default. And of course, I chose the base model here. And yeah, so we just press play. We go into Unity, knock it out, and yeah. Man, if I'm honest, this tutorial probably took the fastest out of anything else I've ever done. Oh, that's weird. Anyway, yeah. So let's just hop right in, and yeah. So as you can see, it updated immediately. Everything's good now. If I press tab, we can remove these items just like I showed you before. And yeah, we can just put these away, wander away, do whatever we want to do, and everything's just perfect. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, make sure you leave a like, subscribe, check out some of the videos. If you have any questions, make sure you leave those into the comment section below, and I'll be happy to get to you as soon as possible. Also, if you have any ideas as to what sort of tutorials that you need to learn from, make sure you leave those inside the comment section below. I'm happy for suggestions, okay? All right, I'll see you guys later. Bye.